Welcome back to my channel. This is the foundation video you guys have all been waiting for. As you know, the month of August has just been the month of all these new foundations, and as a consumer, I remember what it felt like when all of these foundations were launched at the same time. It was a lot, and you were trying to find which foundation because you don't want to buy all of them, and so it's really hard to try to find, well, what foundation do I want to try? And somehow we in our mind believe that these companies are getting better with foundations and, you know, maybe more revolutionary, and then sometimes we're disappointed. Here's the thing, I don't know that I want to call it a ranking video, only because I'm not going to rank them by, you know, my least favorite and my top favorite. I don't really want to do this video that way, in that format, only because we all need something different from our foundations, and what I love and what foundation worked best for me isn't always going to be the same for you, especially if you have a different skin type than I do, or you need more coverage or less coverage, or whatever the case is. I want to give you guys the information on the foundations that we've been testing out last month and give you kind of all of like the summary. It's like, here is the information, here is my experience with it. You know, do I think it's right for this person and this person? Kind of give you the information, not necessarily my favorite of them all, because I just don't feel like that's really going to be very helpful for everyone out there. Hopefully that's okay with you guys, but I just feel like that would be most helpful to all of you. So the first foundation I'm going to start with is the Pat McGrath, and the reason why I'm starting with this one right now is because it's actually what I'm wearing right now. So as you know, this was a complete fail for me. Like, this foundation pulled away from my skin worse than a lot of foundations that I've tried in the last 2 years. It was probably one of the worst, and just by the way, it didn't last. Like, it really broke away. I loved it the first 6 hours. It was stunning. It looks absolutely beautiful when you first apply it. But as the day goes on, for me, it just really started to pull away from my skin. So as you know, I ordered the 3-piece set from the Pat McGrath website when it launched. Well, it took me over 2 weeks to get that package, and I know that so many of you guys were waiting for it, so I actually ordered a bottle from Sephora. So when I did my review, I was not able to test the primer and the powder, so I just did the foundation only. Well, today I wanted to try it with the primer, the foundation, and then the powder over top to see if the powder allows this foundation to have a little bit more longevity for me, because it was a hot mess in that review. And so I started filming early this morning. I think I started around 9, and I applied my foundation. As you'll see in this clip, I went ahead, I put the primer on, I blended this out with my fingers, really smoothed it out, and let me just tell you, I love the way this looks for the first 6 hours. It is absolutely beautiful. The way my skin looks right now, it's absolutely gorgeous. Then it just starts to tank in a way that I was not expecting. It's the first time I've ever had a foundation where I really loved it those first 6 hours, and then afterwards I went from loving it to completely hating it. So it was like two different extremes, and so I wanted to see if the powder would make a little bit of a difference. I was a little bit worried about the powder, you guys, because number one, I don't really like the packaging on this powder. I feel like I don't even dare take this whole tabby off because I don't want it to be like a big mess. So I feel like the packaging wasn't the best, but it's kind of dark and a little bit orange. So I got the shade medium, and I was a little bit nervous about putting this over it, but I think it worked fine. And of course, as you guys know, I don't go in heavy with powder. I don't apply it with a sponge. All I did was I went in very lightly with my Hourglass brush and just like sweeped it over my skin, just like I would with my Hourglass setting powder. Primer, I talked about this in my makeup haul video, trying new makeup, but this primer is a decent primer. I really like the primer. I think it's hydrating. It absorbs into the skin. I don't feel like it leaves like a heavy silicone feel to the skin, but I also don't think it's worth the money because I'm going to go through this really fast, and I just don't really like the fact that the price is so high. In my opinion, this should be half the price because number one, the packaging is super cheap. It just has a sticker over top of it, which I'm not saying that the packaging needs to be fancy, but when the primer is this expensive, then you're wondering, where is all that money going to? Like, you know, because this packaging is so cheap. Now, the bottle of the foundation is very expensive, and I understand that. But this, I don't get. Like, the whole thing, I just don't understand. So I do like the formula, but I 100% do not think it's worth the price. And there's so many great primers out there that give you the exact same experience and the results of this primer for half the price. So just know that. It's just not my favorite as far as price goes. So I'm going to let you guys know later on tonight, after I've worn it for 12 hours, up here on the screen, I will put up just a little bit of information about how it wore, if the powder did, you know, give me a little bit more longevity with it, if it didn't break apart like it had, you know, the first time I wore it, just so that you guys can get a little bit of an idea as to where if the primer and the powder really make that much of a difference. Next up, we have this new one from Urban Decay. This is the Stay Naked. It is a weightless liquid foundation that lasts up to 24 hours. So this gave me like a light medium coverage. I don't know that this is one that you're going to want to build up a lot of coverage on. So I think it's more suitable for those of you that need just a light to light medium coverage. And I like this. This is a very soft matte finish. You guys know that I normally stay away from matte foundations. Matte foundations do not work well with my skin as far as just heaviness, and they look bad over my wrinkles. This one, on the other hand, is a very soft matte. So it's not like you feel really dry. It's very weightless, and it feels just really lightweight. But the one thing that I loved about this is it was very dependable in the heat. So as you know, I moved my son into college a couple weeks ago, and while we were there at the place he lives, it's only like an hour from Vegas. And so it's very hot where he is living right now. And this is the foundation that I wore that whole weekend because it was very dependable in the heat. And I really like this foundation. It is, even if you have dry skin, let's just say that you have dry skin and you've been looking for a nice matte finish, but that doesn't make you more dry, this is a beautiful option. There's not a lot of matte foundations that I would recommend for dry skin, but this is definitely one of them. Now, if you have dry patches, you might not want to go too heavy in those areas with this, but the thing that I like about it is it does lay very lightweight over the face. It does look very beautiful, and it allows your skin to have your natural radiance underneath it, but it doesn't feel like mask-like or anything. It's very comfortable. It lasts a really long time. This for me was a total win, which I was very surprised because I didn't think I was going to like it. Now, I also reviewed the concealer. The concealer didn't work for me. It's too thick, you guys. It's a very thick formula. If you have mature under eyes, I would definitely avoid this concealer. I think it's a little bit too drying for the under eye, and I also feel like it's too thick of a formula, but I'm not letting it go to waste because I have found out that I love it as an eyeshadow based primer. It's absolutely amazing for that. So I'm not letting it go to waste, but the foundation, they did a great job. It's a really, really nice foundation. Next up, we have the Dose of Colors Meet Your Hue foundation. For me, this was a light to medium, but a buildable coverage situation. But if you're not careful, this one will get cakey in your wrinkles. So if you're somebody that wants to try this, I would just make sure that you go in very lightly because this one has a dry oil feel to it. So I think if you were going to try this foundation, I would recommend applying it with your fingers, kind of the way that you saw me apply the Pat McGrath in that one clip just previously. I feel like this is one of those that just looks better if you're using the warmth of your fingers to kind of blend in. Don't go in too heavy with it. For me, I had that experience where it kind of creased in my, wrinkles and stuff, and I felt like it was just a tad bit too heavy. But it is a very beautiful foundation. There are things that I loved about this. The one main thing that I loved about it is how smooth it made my skin look. So it lays beautifully over pores, and I feel like if you are somebody that has enlarged pores, this might be a nice option for you just because it does just lay so beautifully, and it's a very smooth type of foundation. But I didn't feel like it was like revolutionary or anyway, but I do feel like it's a decent foundation, and I also feel like like Dose of Colors did a great job with this being their first foundation launch. I think they did a good job on the formula. This is matte when I first apply it, but as the day goes on, my natural oils are able to kind of come through. If you're like a combo or an oily skin, just be mindful of that this might work for you, but because it's matte when it first goes on, you might be thinking that you don't need to add powder with this one, but I would probably recommend applying powder with this one just to really make sure that you kind of lock down your oils, because this one does look matte, but then as the day goes on, it does kind of really allow my natural oils to come through, and I'm more normal right now. So this one's a decent foundation. It's not my favorite. I don't know that I'll be reaching for it a ton, but it is a nice foundation. Next up is the Anastasia Beverly Hills foundation, and this was my favorite out of all of the ones that I've recently tried besides the Charlotte Tilbury. Now, my Charlotte Tilbury did arrive this morning. I'm going to start playing around with it tomorrow, and I will definitely be doing a full, like, 2 or 3 day wear test with that one and really giving you guys my full impressions on it, because you know that the video that I upload, it was based on a first impression, and I used a sample, and I fell madly hard for that foundation, and I'm really fingers crossed that it doesn't disappoint me, because that foundation kind of blew my mind. I was so in love with the way my skin looked all day long. Like, it just looked gorgeous, so beautiful. So I'm really hoping that I love it as much as I did the first time that I tried it. But this one I would have to say would be like my second favorite besides the Charlotte Tilbury. This is a beautiful foundation, and this is, you know, Anastasia's Beverly Hills' first like liquid foundation. They nailed it. The radiance that it gives your skin. So I would recommend this for somebody who has dry, normal, combo, maybe even oily if you pair it with the right powder. I also feel like if you have a dull skin, and that's one thing that you're constantly battling, is trying to get that natural glow to your skin, this will give that to you. It is so beautiful on the skin. It is just, oh, it's perfection. The thing that I will say about this one, I do not like wearing my Charlotte Tilbury Hollywood Flawless Filter underneath this, because it's too much radiance for me. So as you know, I do already kind of have a natural glow to my skin. Then when I put this on, it even emphasizes that glow. But then when I put this on, it's like too much. And then I look like a crystal ball, and it's not that pretty. So I don't really like pairing these two together, but this is a gorgeous foundation. It is long wearing, and it's a natural finish, and it melts into your skin. It doesn't sit on top. It's just really beautiful, you guys. I am so impressed with this formula. The only thing that I would say that might be a negative for those of you who have enlarged pores, just know that this is a very radiant foundation, and you might not want to apply it over your enlarged pores area. This might be something that you might want to avoid, but you could always put it on the perimeter where you don't really have a lot of enlarged pores, and on those places that you do have the enlarged pores, maybe apply a foundation that is close to this shade and apply it in those areas and kind of give you the perfect look where you have the radiance all around the perimeter, but you also have that very smooth, you know, texture over your pores. So this is a nice option for a lot of people, and they nailed it on this one. I mean, they nailed it. It is a beautiful foundation. Next up, we have the Fenty. I just got done reviewing this a couple of days ago, and there are some things, which is crazy. I was talking to a follower that commented on this video, and she said that she had the exact same experience that I did with this. But I told her, I'm like, it's so weird because I haven't heard anybody talk about it. But for me, this was like one of the main reasons that kind of stopped me from loving it. And she completely agreed. But I like this foundation. I think it looks beautiful. Beautiful on the skin. It's radiant, it's hydrating, it's luminous. You do want to use a little bit of powder on this because it can get a little bit too hydrating, but it's really beautiful. And I love that Fenty decided to you know, release a hydrating formula for those who are dry normal and can't wear the matte formula that she launched last year. She tried to accommodate all skin types, which she did. The only thing that is negative when it comes to this one is that if you have mature skin and you have a lot of like deep set wrinkles and stuff, you're going to have to be extremely careful when applying this. And as you know, as you mature, you have to be careful with applying too much foundation anyways. If you get too thick in areas, it will look really cakey and really thick. And it's crazy to me because I see a lot of YouTubers and I watch a lot of foundation reviews. After I get done with my review, I'll watch other reviews. And when they do a close-up, it looks super cakey, but they don't think it does. Like, they think it looks really pretty. So we all have our own different interpretations of what looks really beautiful. For me, I want my skin to be as natural as possible. I want my foundation to be as natural and skin-like as possible. If it doesn't look like my skin and it starts to look kind of cakey and gross, I don't like that look. But there's a lot of people out there, when they get close to the camera, they think it looks beautiful, and even for me, it doesn't look that great through the camera. So again, we all have our own different interpretations, but this one is kind of the same formula as the matte. The only difference is this one is a hydrating version of the matte formula. But the thing is, this is a thicker consistency. Not that it's a thicker, like, run down your hand, like it won't run down your hand, but the formula itself is thicker. And if you get it too cakey in an area, like especially right here, it builds up just like the matte formula does, exactly that same way. This is a foundation that you've been wanting, and say that you are over 40 and you have, you know, some wrinkles and texture and stuff. Be very, very careful in those areas to apply a very thin layer of this. If you don't want it to have a little bit of that cakey. Again, sometimes it doesn't bother people, but for me, I like it to be as natural and as skin-like as possible. But this is a nice, really good foundation for dry skin and normal skin. I don't necessarily think that, and I do think that people with combination skin will like this because it will kind of give you the hydration around the perimeter, but you can kind of lock down your oils right here in your T-zone area. But for me, I had my oils coming through pretty good on this one, and I'm a normal right now, so I think this is going to be one of those foundations that might be perfect for me in the winter time, maybe not during the summer for me, but I still like it. I love the shade. You guys have heard me talk about this is one of my, like, perfect shade matches, and I like this one. I think it's a good one, but again, just be super, super careful with it. Next up is this one that I just got done reviewing. This is the Milk Foundation Stick. And I really, really like this foundation. I didn't think I was going to like it because it kind of felt thick when I first put it on. And I was like, ooh, I don't know, but it's very skin-like. And I think out of all of these, in my personal opinion, these two are the most skin-like. It's okay if you get a little bit too heavy in certain areas. You can, you know, with the stick foundation, you can just go in there with your finger or go in there with a sponge and just kind of push it out and you're good. Like, this one moves but stays put all day and it sets down, and I love that about this one. This one does the exact same thing. So these two, in my opinion, are the most skin-like out of all of the foundations, but I really like this. I like the coverage of it. It has a good medium coverage. The shade was absolutely perfect for my skin. I loved how radiant it made my skin look. It lasted pretty decent for those, you know, for that 12-hour wear test, and I was really pleasantly surprised by this one. I didn't think I was going to like it as much as I do, but I really do. And in the end of this video, I talked about possibly doing a comparison between the Tom Ford Stick Foundation and this one from Milk, and I did a poll in that video, and 100% of you guys have said yes. I think I've had like 1,500 votes on it, and it's 100% yes. So it seems like all of you guys want me to do it, which is totally fine. Be on the look for that video coming up next week. I will just do like a half and half comparison to see which one, because this might be a really good affordable dupe for the Tom Ford Stick Foundation, because we all know that stick foundation is extremely expensive. So it might be fun to see if this is a nice dupe for that. And I'm meaning dupe as far as, like, this is a little bit more affordable than the Tom Ford. So finally we have the Kevyn Aucoin foundation. This is the Balm foundation. And as you know, this one didn't work out for me quite like I had hopes for. This has worked for a lot of people though. Like, I have a lot of friends here on YouTube. I trust their judgment and their reviews so much, and it just all boils down to we all have different skin, and certain things work for some of us and certain things don't. It's just kind of what it is. It's life. This one did not, it was a little bit disappointing because I kind of had high hopes for it. But the thing that I like the brush. Let me say this. I like the brush, but I don't like it with this foundation because the brush, I felt like packed it on too thick in areas. And again, this is where I get into with mature skin. If you have an acne breakout, if you have dry patches, like you have to have really good, pretty decent skin to wear this. Clear skin, you know, the thing that I loved about this is it goes over the skin and gives you kind of just a smooth, like airbrush look, but it's not very heavy on the face. You actually don't really feel like you're applying anything. When you put your finger down into the pan, you're like, okay, that's pretty creamy. But when you're blending it on the face, it doesn't feel that way. It feels like nothing. It doesn't even feel like there's anything on the brush. I definitely prefer applying it with a brush like this versus a brush that's kind of more stiff and stubby. This one's a little bit more wispy and I can kind of wisp it into the face versus packing it on with this. This is not a foundation in my opinion, that would be good for a, you know, real mature skin. I think maybe if you have like combination skin and you are maturing and you kind of do have the lines, I think you'll still be okay because your natural oils will kind of maybe calm down the cakiness. But if you're dry or normal, if you have acne breakouts, if you have any type of texture, dry patches, I would not play with this foundation because I just feel like it's not going to work for everybody. It's a nice foundation, but it's not suitable for everybody. Combination and oily skin, I think might like this one. You know, you might like it. I don't know if real oily people would like this. I think it would probably be normal and combo would probably be, in my opinion, the best fit for this one. But you pretty much have to have pretty clear skin. I have adult acne and right now I'm cleared up. But I do have lines right here. Again, I don't like my foundation to be heavy. So because I don't like heavy foundation, this is one that I have to be very, very careful with. The other thing about foundations and the way that we apply, we all apply them very differently. And for me, I like a thin, even layer over my face. I don't like too much. I feel like too much just ages my skin and it emphasizes my textures and my pores and all the stuff that I don't want emphasized. So I apply a thin layer. I know there's a lot of people out there that really pack the foundation on. That's the way they like to do their foundation. I like to do mine a little different. We all have different techniques. We all have different skin. We all like different things, but I do feel like this is a foundation that is not made for everyone and it's very, very particular. And I feel like this one is just something that I would skip on if you do have any kind of texture, if you do have dry patches, any acne, open breakouts. I just wouldn't play with this one. So that's it for all of the foundation info on everything that I've been testing out. I will be doing a full review on the Charlotte Tilbury foundation. I also have the Smashbox Full Coverage Foundation. If you guys are interested in seeing that, I had somebody ask me to review that based on like a dry skin type of situation because it is such full coverage. So let me know if you guys are interested in seeing the Smashbox Full Coverage Foundation review. And thank you guys so much for hanging out with me. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you did, give it a thumbs up. I will see you guys in my next video and I love you all so much. Bye.